My job is to introduce the next speaker. Danielle Green is the member for Yan Yean, and she's here tonight very graciously representing Martin Foley, our Minister for Equality. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me here tonight. And I too want to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians on the land of which we're privileged to meet here today, the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to elders past and present. And I want to absolutely commend the organisers of this fantastic event tonight and commend all of you for being here. I was a late draftee to this, but I'm a willing draftee. I'm just going to hang on to it. My name's Danielle Green. I'm the member for Yan Yean. Yan Yean means young man in Wurundjeri language. I like to think that all young men across the world and young women can choose their sexuality, choose who they love. I'm the mother of 2 boys. Blake is 34. He would have been with me here tonight, but he works in hospitality, so he's at work. Blake is gay. Carlo is 27. He's straight. When thinking about what's been happening in Chechnya, I have only been able to put myself in the position of a mother in Chechnya and think how different it might have been. When Blake was 14 years old, he came to me and he said, "Mum, I really don't want you to worry. It could be a stage I'm going through. I think I might be gay." And I just laughed. And he said, "Why are you laughing?" I said, "Oh, darling, don't be so mature. You know, don't worry about me. Be who you are." If I was in Chechnya, I couldn't have said that. He probably couldn't have plucked up the courage to say to me. Or if we did, we might have had to have a conversation in a darkened room and then work out who we couldn't tell. He could not be more loved in our family and in our friendship circle. But for him, in a Western democracy, it still hasn't been that easy. There's still, and I had to say to him, "Darling, it's nobody's business who you love. That's only between you and your lover. You know, have a think about whether you tell our country relatives, because they might judge you." And some of them did judge him, and that caused him great pain. But if he was in Chechnya, it might cost him his life. It might cost the rest of the family our lives. He's now in a family where he's absolutely loved. My mother Wilma goes to Mass every Sunday. She's a Catholic, and one of the prayers she says every Sunday is that the Catholic Church might open its heart and see fit to recognise love in all forms. She's able to do that in a country like Australia. It wasn't always that way. One of the proudest moments in State Parliament that I saw was when we expunged the criminal records of those gay men and women who had been treated as criminals. That was such a proud moment for me. One of those men was a man called Peter McEwen, who I had worked with, and when I was a young public servant, and I had never known that he'd been treated as a criminal. So it's still in many of us who don't think we're that old. There was a time in this state, and not very long ago, and it was even when I was at high school. If I'd been at 14 years old, when my son came out, and I grew up in a country town, and I went to a girls' school, but the high school that I went to when I was there, almost all of Year 12 came out. And I thought that was really weird. There can't be that many gay people. And I realised afterwards they all did it to protect the straight kids, all did it to protect the gay kids, because it was still a crime. And that was when I was still at high school. But what we're seeing in Chechnya is so much, as tragic as the discrimination that GLBTIQ people have experienced in my lifetime, in the time since colonial settlement here. What's happening in Chechnya is way worse than that. It is way worse than that. And I echo Senator Janet Rice's claims. Our government does need to do much more than this. It is an issue of human rights. This is as serious as what we saw in those death camps in the Second World War, and now that it's happening in the 21st century, in what is the extension of Europe, is just a tragedy for us to remember, to be reminded of that. Sorry, I was a late draftee, so I want to make sure I don't miss anything. The other thing I thought of while I was standing here was the last time that I had held an electronic candle. And it was when I had been on an international flight to New York with a girlfriend a couple of years ago. And a gorgeous gay cabin attendant had mistaken us for a gay couple and had given us a lovely table for two, and in business class, too, it was nice. And there was only two of us and one other woman in the cabin, and he thought we were a gay couple, and he put an electronic candle in the middle. And then he walked away, and then we said, should we tell him? And we agreed no, we wouldn't, because we thought, well, yeah, we did want to keep getting the French bubbles. However, we thought it's really important as a statement for any lovers to be able to be seen and to be able to hold a candle between them and in their relationship and be proud to the world. And that's how it should be anywhere in the world. I'm privileged to be here tonight representing Martin Foley. I should have said that Jill Hennessy, the Health Minister, appointed me as a health ambassador for GLBTIQ people, and that's, you know, it's an honorary position, but it's something that I'm very proud to hold. I wanted to finally to read a poem to you. That's something that many of you have probably heard, and it was written by Martin Niemöller, who was a Lutheran minister and early Nazi supporter who was later imprisoned for imposing Hitler's regime. First they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. For the rest of us across the world, because we're not Chechen, we shouldn't be silent. When they come for GLBTIQ people anywhere in the world, and particularly now in Chechnya, we should speak out. Because then the end of the poem goes, then they came for me, and then there was no one left to speak for me. Well, we live in a Western democracy, as imperfect as it might be, but we have the ability to use our voices tonight, like you're doing, and holding your candles. We can do it. We can write letters to our newspapers. We can write in social media. We can buy Will's fantastic music so that we can assist the network of people that are trying to smuggle people out of their country, of that horrible regime. And I really say to our government, we need to openly and urgently open dialogue so that we can get those refugees here in Australia or New Zealand or any other democracy where they're going to be welcomed. And we need to support the GLBTIQ community all over the world, and particularly now where they're needed in Chechnya. Thank you so much for having me here at this vigil. I forgot to say hi to Rowena Allen, a great friend of mine, a great friend of this community. There you are.
Thank you, Danielle.